Hey everyone, this is Stephen. It's the 9th of November 2016 today, and I usually start with a today in history, but I think there's only one event worth mentioning this week, which is of course that we now have the 45th President of the United States. Of course I'm over in the UK and I stayed up most of the night to see the result. I don't think we'll ever see an election quite like this again. Congratulations and all the very best to Mr. Trump. I've said in webcasts for a few weeks now, this is a great time of year to be talking about bots. In a lot of cases, they're going to be used as a marketing tool in a retail context in the run up to Christmas. Of course, now only 46 days away. So, an official welcome to FlowXO's Getting Started webcast, where we'll get you up and running with FlowXO, with an introduction to its key features and benefits, specifically in relation to its push service for marketing, its messaging service for contacting human agents in real time, and how to collect data through a conversational form. If there's anything specific you'd like to see, just get in live chat now or drop a note into a community later. If you haven't been there yet, I'll get you some links for that at the end. Before we get into the webcast proper, a quick shout out to our hashtag WhatTheBot. You can follow WhatTheBot on Twitter to keep up to date with all the latest bot news. It's a great source of inspiration and will keep you up to date with all the latest ideas for leveraging a bot in your business. We seem to have a flurry of strong commercial bots a few weeks ago, but just recently we've dried up a little. I have 3 bots here for you today as examples. I'm just going to start with an example of bots coming back home to roost, arguably the strongest use case, which is publishing, the simple dissemination of information through a channel that boasts 1 billion active users. Let's just take a quick look. So here's the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian's a UK-based newspaper, and they released a chatbot this week. It's incredibly simple in execution, gives you the news and sends you updates. I've no doubt it'll mean that Guardian will get more eyes on their content. It follows in the tracks of the New York Times as a very early adopter. You can look out for other major newspapers releasing bots in the coming weeks. I guess they'll be ubiquitous by the end of the next quarter. Just moving around, we'll look at Trolley next. Trolley is a brand of sweets, and this bot is just insane. You really need to go and have a look at this. It suits the brand perfectly. It's just completely random and fun. You can see some of the pictures here. It pushes out messages randomly just to nudge people to get a little sugar kick every now and again. It's perfect marketing. The final one I'd like to point out is something a little bit more functional. And in fact, I think this is the perfect model for a bot. It's simple, it's straight to the point, it's incredibly useful, uses some appropriate humour, and because of that, it now has more than 17,000 users. So this bot in particular, based in Singapore, Bus Uncle, allows you to get information on your nearest bus stop and when the next bus will be along. So simple premise, really useful, and a great feature here. It allows you to send your location from a handset. We can't do it from the desktop, but the great news is we can also now do this in FlowXO. So ask us about that feature if geolocation is something you're interested in. Okay, by this point you've signed up to FlowXO and you've connected up your messenger bot. Let us know if you're having any trouble with that right now in chat if you like. Some of the team are in there to help you out. A quick reminder, what is FlowXO? Well, first of all, it's the future of business messaging. It must be true because it says it right there over this shoulder. In more direct terms, FlowXO is a complete platform for building, hosting and managing chatbots for messaging platforms such as Messenger, Slack and Telegram. It includes a visual editor to build bots without code. Everything is driven by a set of flows which you build with certain tasks. You can create and distribute your own bots which are owned and branded by you but controlled and hosted by FlowXO. I'm running this cast live so that I can maximize your time and provide everything you need to get started right in this session. Let's solve any queries or give any guidance you need right away. Again, there's live chat, so by all means get talking to the team and I over on the right. Alexander, you've already had a chat to me earlier, so thanks for that. Let's get down to some business in our account. So, my example business for today is the Mortgage Store, who are the home of the Mortgage Bot. The Mortgage Store is a typical mortgage broker who are regulated to advise customers on mortgage loans, and they have a Facebook page in place. They have a range of products available: first-time buyer, remortgage, buy-to-let or second home mortgages. Some more context: the Mortgage Store simply wants to communicate with customers better, provide a more engaging experience, divert basic queries away from the resource-intensive phone line, and ultimately write more business. If you got my email, you should have a bot in place by now, and Messenger open and ready to go, as well as Google Sheets, Gmail and of course FlowXO. We'll take a closer look at that setup in a few minutes, but first let's dive right in and take a look at our bot in action. I'm going to launch him here just so that we see some specific welcome text. So by clicking Get Started, I pass the Start keyword in the background. And you can see that right away, he's tried to get us on track by giving us some option buttons. He's trying to fulfill his purpose right away. However, it's important that he can handle some basic conversation. So let's say hello. And you can see that he wants to get right to the point again. He gives us some basic options right away to direct to the things we want him to handle. But I'm more interested in how he is. I'm going to be quite mischievous and type in a question rather than click an option he's given. I'll tell him I'm great. And you can see that he's easily countered that, and he's constantly directing us back into the bot's purpose, which is the whole point of having the bot out there. It's really easy to set up this basic conversational chatter and capture any and all the things that are thrown at the bot. We'll look at some flows in a moment so you can see how easy it was to put this together. Just before we go further, let's just take a close look at our setup. I have FlowXO, of course. I've got Messenger open. I've also got Gmail, and I've got Google Sheets here. It's important just to look at Google Sheets in a bit of detail. It has a specific structure, and it's important that I've set it up this way before working with any flows. Just an idea of what's going on here before we get to our flows proper. We have 3 sheets. The first is data to push. This is going to be our trigger sheet. Every time we put some information in the sheet, it's going to trigger our marketing messages through Messenger. We'll just need to put the correct content under the correct headings with a cut and paste. Our second sheet helps us do that. This is my staging area where I prepare the marketing messages I'll eventually want to send. I've made it easy to just cut and paste these pre-prepared messages in our future marketing sheet. You can see that I have all the deals that I might want to communicate to customers here. The content is relevant to scenario, but most important is this category column here, which is going to help us contact the right customers at the right time. The third sheet is going to be used when we collect some data through a conversational form. We'll be building that flow to populate this sheet in real time a little later. Over in FlowXO, just a quick shout out about a relatively new release. There's a referral link here, and if you encourage your friends to use the platform via social media, you can earn rewards in the way of extra interactions and bots or flows. You can also see here that I've arranged my flows into folders, which is great for managing what the bot does and tweaking functionality, or for organizing flows for different events or different customers. Okay, let's consider the flows we have here and the ones we'll want to build. So first, we're going to use FlowXO's push service to handle our marketing and deliver content to users in Messenger. We need 3 flows to handle marketing, and this is our first. The receiver push flow starts with a new push trigger, and it's important that I give it an appropriate name. I'm only required to give that name, and this trigger is going to act as a receiver of data that will send from another flow. In this next action, I'm going to use the attribute service. Attributes can act like a counter, how many times somebody visited, or a flag. Somebody said a specific word. It's a simple key value store in the background. We're going to use it here to see if a customer is eligible to receive the manner of push we're sending each time this flow is run. They'll be eligible because they suggest a certain mortgage type when they subscribe to us. So you can see here we're going to get an attribute of the specific customer. They're uniquely identified by their response path. And we're interested in the customer's stored mortgage product preference, which are identified as category in our spreadsheet. Of course, we've yet to ask the customer what that preference might be, but we do know that it's going to be one of our 4 options or product types: first time buyer, remortgage, buy to let, or second home. This might seem a little bit counterintuitive at the moment, getting an attribute before we've set it, but it's important that we consider this flow first so that the receiver is in place and we can call from our subsequent flows. Lastly, in this flow, we can then send a card. It's some rich content rather than a simple message. I just need to fill in these inputs with the data that I'll eventually receive from the push. You can see the outputs came directly from FlowXO. When we build our flow together in a few minutes, you'll see how easy that is. Last point, I just need to make the send a card action conditional. So we only send content that's appropriate to the user. We can do that by checking that the value of the attribute we got in the previous task isn't empty. That is, we've previously recorded the specific customer as preferring this type of offer. Filters are really important for controlling our workflow, and you can put them on any task to define simple logical comparisons. Just making this sure this workflow is on, and we'll move on to our next flow. We're now ready to get the customer subscribed to the content we'll push out. First, we need to trigger based on something that's said to the bot. In this case, we're going to focus on the keyword subscribe. It's important to note that there's some fuzzy matching here, so this trigger will also function on the word unsubscribe, meaning we can neatly accommodate both cases in one flow. Next, we're going to use one of FlowXO's helper tasks to manipulate the message the customer gave us. This is important because we need to make sure we can filter some tasks later in this flow without worrying if there are any capitalized words given. So we're just going to use the text string function task to lowercase the message that's given to us. Next, we'll ask a question. What type of mortgage are you looking for? And we'll make sure to set this question type as choice. And we'll also make sure that we send a reminder just to make sure that people remember to answer this question and don't get lost with what they're meant to be doing. Then we're ready to revisit attributes. We're going to set an attribute for this particular customer this time. The name of the attribute in this case is going to be the answer to the question we just asked, which is the mortgage type the customer is interested in. We just need to filter so that it's not set on the word unsubscribe, only if they come to us and say subscribe. Next, we need two push actions, one to subscribe and one to unsubscribe, which are filtered by the lowercase message that we received earlier. We're looking for the presence or absence of the word unsubscribe from the trigger to decide which one to send. Similarly then, just to round this flow off, we need two filter messages to confirm the subscription or unsubscription of the customer, and again it's going to be filtered on the same test, the presence or absence of unsubscribe. Our last flow, we're on to the exciting one in this set of free flows relating to push marketing, is going to be called release offers. It's a simple flow that starts with a FlowXO service integration rather than a bot new message trigger. So here we're going to use Google Sheets as a trigger. You remember we looked at that sheet earlier. And then we're going to send a push to the receiver that we set up in Flow 1. This is why it's important that we named it appropriately for identification here. And again, these outputs just come from my sheet. So let's make sure all these flows are switched on, and we can check this out in Messenger. Firstly, I need to subscribe. I can handily use this button here. I'm going to choose first time buyer. And then I can go over to Google Sheets. I'm going to go to future marketing. I'm going to copy out my marketing message and I'm going to paste it into the next available row. Back in FlowXO. Just a note that this is a polling trigger rather than an instant message trigger, so we just need to wait for the next poll to Google Sheets so it can pick up this new data. You can see it's now triggered. I'll take a quick look at the logs. And you can see here we're completed successfully. That means that just let anything percolate through, and any minute you should hear a ping. There we go. Just as we push things through a little bit, I just needed to give a refresh. There's the marketing message come through. And that's our marketing setup and complete. So now every time I put a message into a new row of data in my Excel sheet, I'm going to get a new message pushed out into Messenger. So now we need to start building out the bot in terms of general conversation and other important features. Let's consider how we greet all new customers who are speaking to the bot for the first time. When we click Get Started, we saw that customized message when we spoke to the bot for the first time, but also how we respond to anything that we don't understand. First, we put a catch-all trigger in place. We only need to say that it's going to be active for all our bots here. We don't need to give any other input because we're looking for everything that isn't captured by another trigger. Next, we're going to use the code service to get the first name of the user from the full name that Messenger provides to us. The code service is a powerful way to do, well, whatever it is you want. It can make requests to other apps or services that FloyXO doesn't support, perform custom manipulation or calculations on data, and then use the output in the conversation with the customer. We've used a really simple example here, but the options are limitless. If you want to interact with your CRM, your calling or your dialer system, or any other web connected app, you can do it with this service. Be sure to talk to us to see how you can get the best out of it. Here, I'm just parsing out the person's first name from the full name that's given to us by Facebook. So next, I'm sending a message for every new connection. We'll have recognized that it's a new connection and given appropriate buttons, no unsubscribe button because the user wouldn't have subscribed yet. We're just looking for the key value start, which is what happens, what's given when we click the Get Started button, and we saw that earlier. And finally, then we just want to make sure we handle everything else that's thrown at the bot, every other word that happens after that initial start that we don't understand. This actually acts as a precursor to our next flow. We'll have a filtered message that we want to be said when we generally don't understand something during the flow of conversation. I'm going to give some shortcuts to get people back on track and some potential words that people may or may not have said to us. So we've come to two cases here, a brand new connection and a generally misunderstood message, which could have come at any point after start. We'll tackle that second case and feed into this final task in a flow called Chatter, which demonstrates some interoperability of these flows and handles the how are you type conversation that we looked at when we first launched the bot. So now we'll look at giving some specific things to the bot to make it more conversational. You'll see how easy it is to scale these. After some simple conversation, we'll make sure we get down to business and redirect the customer to our intended process. Bots are fun, but they must also be functional. We'll trigger on the new message action, the new message trigger rather. And these are the keywords and phrases that we're looking out for. Hello, hi, and how are. We'll use the same code that we saw before to get the person's first name. And then we'll send a basic message, assuming we're looking for the keyword or phrase, how are. We need to make sure the filter is there and look at our original message and see that it contains that value, how are. And finally, we'll send a message again, which is our general reply to hi, hello, etc. And you can see I'm given shortcuts again. So the important thing to understand here is the interoperability of this flow with the catch-all we have in place. With a few simple actions and a bit of thought, we can make the bot appear to respond quite intelligently. But all it took is these 4 simple actions, and then it falls back on the catch-all when it doesn't understand something. So you remember when we said great in response earlier, that fell back on the catch-all. Let's start to finish off in terms of general conversation and correctly directing the customer. Because we've overridden the help keyword with our catch-all, we need an independent flow to manage a direct request for help. We'll trigger on the keyword help and also the word menu, which is a common human request for basic inputs. Then we'll send a message back to the customer who needs specific help. Of course, we'll give the shortcuts to get them back on track. We'll take a quick look at that in Messenger. And there we are, put right back on track right away. Really simple but effective. So now we've handled some of the general conversation type things that people will come and say to us, but now we want to look at some of the more important features. Now the bot's more built out in terms of that general conversation, we'll now look at the first important feature which I want to discuss with you, which is the messaging service for getting in touch with a human agent directly. We're going to start in the InTouch workflow. We're going to start with a bot trigger again, a new message trigger. And we need to trigger on some common words and phrases that we've identified as a customer needing specific human help. I'm also triggering on the keyword reply. Take special note of that and you'll see why in a moment. We'll then ask a question to get some more detail. And we're going to use the election twice here because we want to know if this is a reply to a human message that was previously sent as part of a thread, or a first time request for human help. And then we're going to use the messaging service to send a message to a human agent. Again, we've got two actions here, just to tailor the content based on this being the first time a message was sent asking for human help, or it was a reply as part of a thread. And finally here, we're going to let the customer know we've contacted the human and how long they're going to be. So let's just take a look at that running. You can see here that the bot's told me how long the human agent's going to be, and then if I jump into Gmail, I'll see that as the agent at the mortgage store, I've now got a message directly back requesting for help. The bot's told us what it's told the human, and I can now reply and say, thanks for your message. How can we help further? Back in Messenger, you can see that's the message that we just sent by email. Now if I click reply as the customer, I'll be able to further engage. The bot will ask me again, we'll just start that flow again, and the bot will ask me what it is I want to send back to the human, and I'll stay in the thread of conversation with the human. We're going to use the messaging service again in a moment. It's a really powerful tool that makes bots better than any single AI. It has all the advantages of bots and human intelligence. But before we do, just a quick but important note to say that we've used Gmail here, but you can link up the messaging service to any address and route messages through, say, Freshdesk or Help Scout or any other ticketing software to provide complete customer interaction management. So yeah, let's take this up a level and make this a little bit more exciting. We'll put it into a sales context with our final flow, which we'll build together. Get a quote. So first, I'm going to trigger on the keyword quote. Then we'll send a message just to keep this interaction engaging. Then we'll ask a question. I have your name as, and then we're going to choose the FlowXO output, which comes from Facebook, the username. And we're going to validate this as an email. and then going to ask another question. So what's your mobile number? Here in the UK, obviously that's a cell number. I'm going to ask a final question. Of course, let's make this friendly. Next in this flow, I'm going to use the number service to calculate, based on that answer to that last question, a typical mortgage rate of 4.5 times earnings. I'll send a message back to the customer. And we'll put the answer, rather the result of the calculation in here. Let's just fill this out a little bit. Next, I'm going to add a row to Google Sheets. So I select Sheets, the Sheets service. I'm going to add a row. And this time, it's the new customer sheet that we looked at earlier. And here I can pick the outputs. The name comes directly from Facebook. The email was the answer to our first question. Mobile was the answer to our second question. Salary was the answer to our third question, and the mortgage amount was the calculation that we did. Final thing to do here, this is a brand new hot lead that's filled out this conversational form, so I'm just going to use the messaging service to route this new hot inquiry directly to an agent so they can get in touch right away. Here's my message. Again, these outputs come from FlowXO. Send the username and the result of the number calculation. So two things are going to happen here. We're going to log the new lead via an interactive form, and we've passed this hot lead to an agent. Let's see that happening. I'll go to the bot and I'll say quote. And I need to turn my workflow on, of course. I'll just give a number here. I'll give a salary. And here's the calculation performed, and we're told a human agent will be in touch to discuss further. First of all, let's just jump over to our new customer sheet. You'll see here I've logged the details of that customer, of that new hot lead. And also over in Gmail, I've been passed the details of that new hot lead too, and I can reply now as the mortgage store. And send that directly back into Messenger and hopefully close this deal. And there we go. So here you can see we have the basis of a really good bot. We have some marketing functions in place, and we're able to point out options to a brand new customer right away, and we can respond when we don't understand a particular message. We've also looked at data collection and configuring human interaction directly through the bot with the messaging service, both very powerful customer service and sales tools. So this is it, crunch time. I hope you've seen how easy it is to get started, and you have some of your own ideas about what you'll build next. Here's what pricing looks like. For only $19 a month, you can build 15 bots or flows and accommodate 5,000 interactions. There's no contract or time period, and you can downgrade to a free plan at any time. Because you've been kind enough to watch today, I'd like to sweeten the deal. Here are links to all the flows we've built today, so you can install them right away just by entering that link into your browser. To get them all in place, you will need more than the 5 flows that are available in the free edition, so I'll also give you your first month free if you sign up in the next 24 hours. You just have to use the coupon code FREE4516, FREE4516. With no time period, that means you can completely de-risk your own bot launch. Don't forget this video will be online for a short while later, so you can get those links if you need them. Finally, a few resources to be aware of. There are extensive help docs at support.flowxo.com. There's a lively community at community.flowxo.com. We have a constructive blog at medium.com/flowxo, and watch out for the hashtag WhatTheBot on social media to get all the latest bot news. Thanks for watching. I've really enjoyed building things out with you today. Please get signed up, tell me more about your use case. I'm on live chat right now. I'd be delighted to help you in getting things built out. I will be running this session weekly, so feel free to come and watch again if you like. The core content won't change, but if you have a specific case, perhaps we can build that into the session. A final reminder, if you get onto Twitter and hashtag WhatTheBot right now, I'll be sure to give you some retweets. Get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. See you all soon.